Wait a second. Let me step down. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Sin City Crypto Live. My name is David. I'll be one of your co-hosts. And today, like every single weekday, we're coming at you live from our studio here in Las Vegas, Nevada, with our daily live show. Today's content, we are doing a year in review of some of the biggest happenings in 2022. We're going to do that with our friend Forrest, who'll be joining us in about 15 minutes. We also have some news regarding Donald Trump. His tax filings have been released. How much did he pay? We'll go over that. Also, Sam Bankman-Fried cashes out over $600,000. And also, news broke that he was meeting with White House officials, Joe Biden's executives and whatnot. And so before we get into the content, I unfortunately have to introduce you to your other co-host for the last time this year, Big Rob. Hello.
Hola! It's your boy, Big Rob, back in the house. Welcome to Sin City Crypto. If it's your first time checking us out, we are an entertainment-focused cryptocurrency channel where we take the old, the boring, the stale information and package it up in a fun and sexy way. Also, here's Sin City Crypto. We have spent the latter half of this year discussing the price of Bitcoin that has not moved in quite some time. We have Bitcoin at 16,500. Are you surprised?
Yeah.
Is there jubilation in the streets?
So surprised.
Yeah.
I'm shocked. Shocked to the core.
Did you see that we opened up the show? Or before we even opened up the show, your boy Big Chili Willie dropping a $9.99 super chat.
Dude's rolling in the dough, man.
Man.
Appreciate you, Big Willie.
And with the rate of inflation, is now worth $10.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got to spend it quick before it goes down to $8.
Oh, man. Big Chili Willie, thank you. A lot of appreciation today. We're going to have a little reflection on this year. And what a better way to start reflection than with our community who has grown from zero to a whopping 200 people on average on our show.
One person.
Yeah, it was fun when we first started doing our show. We would say like, put a 1 in the chat if you agree with us, and there's literally nobody in the chat. But yet we're not discouraged from taking 1s and 2s in the chat. Just didn't have a lot of replies.
That was a lot of practice.
Yes, that's right.
Speaking of practice. Well, I don't know. So this is Donald Trump's tax return. So this is no, you can't do that because it cuts it off. Yeah. So in 2015, he paid over $641,000 in taxes. In 2016 and 2017, he paid $750 respectively. In 2018 was his biggest year, where he paid almost $1 million in taxes. 2019, $133,000 and $0 in 2020. And of course, we know his adjusted gross income did dip because A, he was giving away his entire salary as president, and B, obviously he handed over all the operations to his businesses to his kids and the whereabouts. Now, Donald Trump, he was super against his tax returns being put out there. He fought it, and they finally released it. He's gone on record saying, "Hey, this is the system that's been put in place, and I just use the system." What do you think?
I didn't get to use the system because in 2016 and 2017, I paid a lot of taxes.
Well,
just saying, man, dude paid $750 in taxes, both 2016 and 2017. That is actually 7.5 mints of his NFT collection. Not out of how many were in his collection? Was it 20,000?
40,000.
40,000. Oh, shit. How much taxes do you think he's going to pay this year?
I don't know. Probably more than what he did in 2020, which was 0. Yeah. So that was kind of interesting. I just want to get right into it before we bring Forrest on. So a couple news regarding Sam Bankman-Fried.
News. Okay.
So it's from Cointelegraph. Sam met with Biden's senior advisors 2 months before the FTX collapse. Former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried met with government officials at the White House on at least 4 separate occasions in 2022, one of which reportedly occurred just 2 months before the fall of his crypto empire. Bankman-Fried met with counselor to the president, Steve Ricchetti, on April 22nd and May 12th, along with another meeting on May 13th with policy advisor Charlotte Butash. He also met with President's counselor Ricchetti as recently as September 8th, which this was a meeting that did not show up in the visitor logs. It didn't show up.
Oh, was it one of those like secret meetings where they wear the weird like face masks, the masquerade masks with the little like long noses?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the crow ones.
The ones that have like the weird freaky sex parties?
Yeah. Exactly, Robert. I'm not sure which ones you go to, but and then also, this is from Forecast News. FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried allegedly cashes out $684,000 on-chain data shows. He sent around 570 ETH, which is about $684,000, to a Seychelles-based exchange and Ren Protocol's Bitcoin bridge on Wednesday. So I guess he wasn't lying when he said, I only have $100,000 in my bank account. Apparently he had more money in his crypto account.
That man is full of honesty and transparency.
It's an honest day's work for this guy.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, say that 20 times fast. And then finally, Bahamian regulator holding $3.5 billion of FTX customer assets. People are wondering what happened. Well, the Bahamas government has it. Securities Commission of the Bahamas has been holding on to more than $3.5 billion worth of FTX customer assets since November 12th. The funds are stored on digital wallets controlled by the Commission for safekeeping, the Commission wrote in the statement. The assets will remain in the Commission's control until the Bahamas Supreme Court orders their return to FTX customers and creditors. Robin, a lot of interesting things going on here. So the meetings, the money, and now the Bahamas holding it. What are your thoughts?
Well, they have a hole of what, $8 to $10 billion, roughly. I know that's a large margin of error, but they weren't exactly good at keeping records and keeping the books in order. Remember, they do use QuickBooks, a world-renowned software that multi-billion-dollar industries use.
World-renowned.
Yes. You can go pick up a copy of QuickBooks at your local Walmart, starting at $29.99. They also do have a corporate package or $9.99, so $999. Then it's okay, here's the thing. If there is crypto, the thing is crypto's borderless. Why the hell is Bahamas holding it? I get it. If it was cash, for example.
Well, the company was domiciled in the Bahamas.
I get that. But the wallet addresses don't really have borders, right?
Right.
If you have a Bitcoin wallet address, is it property of the US? If something happens in another country, is it their problem? No. It lives in a borderless internet domain with a wallet address. And so I don't know, man. I feel like they shouldn't be holding it. I mean, do you agree, right?
I mean, it makes sense.
I understand the premise. And if it was cash, for example, let's just say the company filed for bankruptcy, they went under, they closed. There's bank accounts there in the Bahamas. They close the bank accounts. They hold the cash, and they're like, hey, whenever you guys request this cash or whatever it is, we just have it all. We have all the assets frozen. And that kind of makes sense in a traditional format. However, we're talking about cryptocurrency with wallet addresses, and I don't understand why that is in the jurisdiction of the Bahamas. Obviously, they do have different laws when it comes to forfeitures and assets. So it is what it is, but I don't know. Now, what would really, what I would find really disgusting is that if all those funds don't end up back in bankruptcy procedures and back into the hands of the users that lost money, right?
Disgusting.
And so do you think there's a chance for that? I mean, I'm pretty sure that the U.S. Justice Department, also the court system that is handling the bankruptcy, that they would request those funds to give those back to the users, right? That would be the standard protocol you would expect, right? And if there's anything short of that, if there's any kind of like, hey, we're going to keep 10% because of whatever reasons, shame on you, right?
I'm so disgusted, Robin. I can't even speak.
But do you agree?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what's your thoughts on Bahamas like holding?
Well, I mean,
Hey, they're in a whole 8 to 10 billion, and how many billions did they
what
have?
are they supposed to do? Send it to the U.S.?
I mean, they're handling the bankruptcy procedure, so yes.
I mean, I guess eventually.
If the U.S. court system is the court,
but we're so far out from money being dispersed to people, then I mean, I don't know. It makes sense why they have it, right? It was a registered company in the Bahamas. They shut them down. They took control of the assets. I'd rather have the Bahamas securities.
Now, but here's the problem. If they just keep it there, you do realize with a seed phrase, they can't seize the assets, right?
Yeah.
So let's just say Sam Bankman-Fried has 20 words.
They're staking it, dude.
Stop. And if someone from Alameda, someone from FTX, if Sam Bankman-Fried or his parents, whoever it is, if they have these seed phrases at their disposal, I don't exactly know if I trust the Bahamian government to secure the assets in a way that they don't get compromised.
What are you trying to say, bro?
These are industry professionals that are good at fraud and moving money around. And I just have a feeling that the Bahamas are going to keep the money stagnant in a wallet that isn't, that they don't even move the money from the wallet. And then lo and behold, Sam Bankman-Fried's like, yo, I still got the seed phrase for that. I mean, they think they have it, but really they don't. And then next thing you know, we're going to be discussing another article. And the article is going to be, the funds siphoned that the Bahamas was holding is now gone. It was hacked, or as an example. Tell me you don't see that. Tell me you don't see reading that story. The Bahamian wallet that was custodying got hacked, and all the funds are gone. Right? I mean, that's a real narrative. That's where we're at right now, man.
And it's gone. Shout out to Robert Salazar, $5 super chat. Said, hola, thank you for all the great content this year. Wish the best to all of the Sin City fam and viewers. Happy New Year, and barbecue chicken pizza is delicious. Robert, thank you so
much. Speaking of chat, let's give a
where
little
are
bit
the
of
people at,
yeah,
man?
Yeah, we got 30 likes. Like, what's going on?
Got 68 people watching.
Is this how we're going to end the year?
Terrible.
Is this how we're going to end the year?
Unacceptable.
Absolutely unacceptable. So a few new people. Liam, Bitcoin, Mimi Jin, S-Dog21, Swing It, Investing, Kevin Cortez. Hola! Welcome to Sin City Crypto.
Adam said I have a doppelganger. He knows a guy who knows a guy.
Oh, yeah?
Like yeah.
Okay.
Let's bring him on the show.
And Adam Buzzard in here as well. I don't think...
I don't think I've seen him. Yeah, he's a doppelganger guy.
Oh, okay.
The friend who's a... So let's talk about some Santas and Grinches of 2022. The heroes and villains in what Cointelegraph has dubbed. So let's start with the heroes first. And if you disagree with any of these, just let me know. First is Changpeng Zhao, also known as CZ, also known as the CEO of Binance. He is one of the heroes, played a pivotal role. Well, they're saying he played a pivotal role in the collapse of his closest rival, FTX, which is what the New York Times keeps printing. They're blaming everything on CZ. Definitely don't think it's his fault. Did I think he pushed the needle? Yes. Was it his fault that Sam Bankman-Fried was a complete degenerate piece of crap loser? No. It was not his fault.
You know what CZ's like? He's like that neighbor that sees the house across the street having a big ass party, and he's like, he calls the cops on a noise complaint, and then all of a sudden they find 10 kilos of cocaine, a sex ring operation in the back, and lo and behold, and then like 15 cats and like 30 dogs. And next thing you know, they're like, yo, it's all CZ's fault, bro. If it wasn't for him, they would have never got caught. Like, what do you mean? Like, there was so much illegal activity in there. And why are you putting blame on this dude? Because he decided to sell a token. If you want to sell a token, you go sell a token. But it doesn't make it your fault that if in doing so, doing something that is legally and not even frowned upon, selling a token, collapses the second largest exchange in the world. Right?
Also, Gina Bobina's in here. What's up, Gina?
But it is still his fault, because if that guy hadn't called on that noise complaint, it would have never.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Anyways, another here. Oh, so this movie here, The Big Short 2, we talked about this. All right. Brian Armstrong is touted as a hero of 2022 as well. even though their stock is definitely not a hero this year. It is down considerably. But as I said, he was also critical of the sanctions of Tornado Cash's smart contracts. He's been putting pressure on Gary Gensler. He's been trying to push the space forward, according to this article. Next, we have Senators Cynthia Lummis and Kirsten Gillibrand. And they probably put him as a hero because their proposed bill, the Responsible Financial Innovation Act, where it proposed handing over a majority of the crypto market to the CFTC. That, of course, has gone nowhere. Representative Tom Emmer was a hero of 2022. He consistently pointed the finger at Gary Gensler, said, Gary, what are you doing? You're not doing your job. You're inconsistent. You're inconsiderate. You're ominous. You're unfair. So Tom Emmer, a hero. The entire Ethereum core development team for taking on the largest, essentially, can you say the largest, like, or the biggest, I forget what the words I'm looking for, but the most, help me out here, bro.
I have no idea what word you're fishing
like
for.
The most significant,
The largest, gigantic, Titanic,
the most
significant,
the most significant thing to happen in crypto as far as from a development side. To merge a multi-hundreds of billion-dollar chain from proof of work to proof of stake, completely different consensus, and for it to go off without a hitch. Would you agree with that?
Yes, it is. As you mentioned, gigantic, significant, preposterous. It is also, I don't know, what other adjectives did you miss there?
Ginormous. Huge.
Extravaganza. How about that?
Yeah. So those are all the heroes. Do you disagree with any of those?
Nah, man.
Would you consider Brian Armstrong a hero? Would you consider CZ a hero? I don't know if I consider CZ a hero, man. What has he done?
I think they're the most prominent players in our space. Whether or not you consider them a hero, they did move the needle forward, or they pushed the apple cart, or they moved the train, whatever analogy you want to use. But they did progress the space. All four of them, right?
Well, and the ETH development team, yes.
Yeah. And I think Michael Saylor is probably the most outspoken. So he probably gets the most limelight. Not to mention, is he the second largest holder of Bitcoin at this point? Or I don't know if he is. I know he's getting close.
I think he is actually 135,000.
He has like one.
Well, if you don't count Satoshi's wallet, then yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw a metric. He owns one out of every like 160 Bitcoin now, or something like that.
Before we bring Forrest on, I'm just going to finish this article up. So these are the villains of 2022. Sam Bankman-Fried, you don't need me to explain why. Do Kwon, you don't need me to explain why. Suzu and Kyle Davies, the founders of Three Arrows Capital, don't need to explain why. Alex Muskamsky. You have Stephen Ehrlich, which is the CEO of Voyager. Yeah, they made some bad moves. Did I think it was negligible outside of that as far as them doing shady stuff? No, they were just dumb. So, I don't know. Before we get our take, let's bring Forrest on. Kyla? Forrest!
What's up, guys?
Man, I'm so sad, bro. I won't see you for the rest of the year, man.
Oh, man, yeah. Well, next week.
Next week, yeah, that's true. Yeah, awesome. Well, Forrest, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. All right, so we just went over the villains and heroes of 2022. Did you get a chance to catch those?
Yeah, the actually, was just kind of thinking like a lot of arrogant people got humbled this year in 2022. I'm sorry.
That's it. They got served that delicious humble pie.
Yeah, exactly. So, obviously SBF was very, very cocky. Do Kwon was probably the cockiest of all of them. And he got humbled, but I think he got off easy so far. I mean,
I think he got off easy too, man.
On the run.
I mean, he's on the run in like Serbia or Siberia or something. But anyways,
yeah.
Robin,
hopefully
anyone stick out on the Yeah, well, he's enjoying himself more than some other people are, like Andrew Tate, who just got arrested. But Robin, what are your thoughts on the villains of 2022? Who stands out the most? Who's the biggest villain? Is it Sam?
I mean, obviously, I think he was a catalyst to a lot of the events that happened. If he wasn't the underlying factor, he at least was a contributing factor to, I think, all of the big collapses. I mean, all of it was intertwined. So everyone that, or all the institutions, all the projects that essentially blew up was not the fault of Sam Bankman-Fried, but it was more of a fault of money management, risk, and then just sound business practices. And as we kind of alluded to when we first started the show, CZ might have been the catalyst to bring down FTX. Essentially, you could say the same thing about Sam Bankman-Fried. He might not have been the catalyst if, venture capital, Three Arrows, if had they had sound money management and risk.
But Sam was going after them too, though.
I'm not saying
he knew everyone's liquidation points and he just wrecked them. So he did everything.
Venture capital, bro. We're not talking about trading on margin. You're talking about straight borrowing money from another exchange or from another corporation or company and not setting up the correct collateral on the back end to prevent loss if it doesn't work out. And we know history has always repeated itself in crypto, and a bear market's coming. And yet, I feel like everyone all of a sudden had their pants down or surprised. Like, we never thought Bitcoin would hit 16,000. It was never in a while. Like, what do you mean? Like, it happens every time. And how are you professionals in the crypto space and you were caught off guard by the price of Bitcoin slipping dramatically? And so I feel like these companies would have failed anyways, but Sam Bankman-Fried just poured gasoline on everything and he lit the match. So
you think Voyager would have failed if Sam wasn't in the picture?
Yeah, I think so. I think it might have been a long failure.
You think BlockFi would have failed? No.
Yes. I think BlockFi, you think Sam Bankman-Fried was probably the only risky loan they lent out. If anything, they probably would have lent out more risky loans had this not blown up in the way that it did. They would have probably taken on more debt and took on more leverage, and the collapse of these institutions might have been that much greater had it not happened when it did. The same thing, like, I'm in the camp that if Terra Luna didn't go under, we saw the magnitude of that collapse.
Why did
Imagine if it would have been 5 times bigger.
Why did Terra Luna go under?
But it doesn't matter. But what I'm saying, so
why did it go under?
Okay, let me ask you a question. So if Sam Bankman-Fried didn't exist, you think that the Terra Luna algorithm would have succeeded for eternity?
No, but no one would have been.
Exactly. So if you think so, at some point it's going to collapse.
But they were on the way to properly backing it up with collateral. Forrest, what are your thoughts?
They were on the way of putting more Bitcoin leverage on
5 days a week. Forrest, what are your thoughts? Where do you land on all this?
On the biggest villain, it's a close call. Obviously, SBF is about as bad as they get, and unfortunately, we're leaving out the names of Caroline and the other people involved. But I got to say, in terms of like market impact, I would have to say probably Do Kwon, and the fact that he was just basically extremely arrogantly saying like, "Hey, yeah, your funds are safe, yeah, everything's good," and people were putting in like the thing that's so bad about Terra Luna was like people felt like they were not exposed to the market and not exposed to a high degree of risk because they were in UST, which is a stable coin. So they felt like, oh, I've done the right thing and I've sold and I've gotten out of the market. And in fact, they were, out of the pot and into the frying pan. Is that the saying? Yeah. Both they're tough to compare. I think if the thing that people like kind of cut, they don't go as hard on Do Kwon for is the fact that like FTX was like an actual entity or an institution, and Terra Luna was like DeFi, and people kind of like don't really understand DeFi very well, and they're like, oh, well, it was like a decentralized protocol that failed. When in reality, I think there is probably a lot of malicious stuff going on behind the scenes. I think Do Kwon was taking out like $20 million a month or something. It's a close call, but they're both terrible. Terrible.
Do you agree,
events.
Sam was kind of behind all of it? 3 arrows, maybe not 3 arrows so much, but Terra Luna, Voyager, BlockFi, Celsius.
I'm gonna have to say that I think Terra Luna would have failed regardless of whether Sam existed or not. I think the algorithm was messed up. It was the fact that you could allow the market cap of the stable coin to exceed, and the money that the liquidity of the stable coin to exceed the market cap of the stable coin to exceed the liquidity of Terra Luna. That is a fundamental flaw in the system, and that's how you get a death spiral. So I think it would have death spiraled regardless eventually, as soon as there was a bank run on Terra.
That's a good point.
But yeah, I mean, SBF was kind of behind a lot of stuff in the market. He definitely didn't help.
How does he say the same thing I said?
Because you're annoying.
That's a good point.
Because you're annoying. You're loud and annoying. He actually is like well put together, puts his words together, makes me understand. I don't like you. Forrest, thank you so much. I want your take, Forrest. I want your take on Utes and D-Gods leaving the Solana ecosystem. I remember we did do a video talking about how you can not necessarily make money in Solana, but what you can kind of do if you have exposure, if you want to get exposure. We talked about investing in those. And now that they're leaving, can you just talk about what do you think that means for the Solana ecosystem? Kind of share your thoughts. And then also, if you know, because I don't really know, I'm assuming it's going to be a wrapped or a bridged over asset. What does that mean if you're holding Solana? I mean, what does it all mean?
Yeah. So a lot of questions there, a lot to unpack. Most of those questions are actually answered in. I just published a 24-page research report, and I'll make sure to send it to you guys for the Sistine Research subscribers of the research plan on D-Gods and Utes. So when FTX collapsed and Solana really started going down in price. One of the things that we're talking about in the Discord, it was basically the optionality. You always if you can hedge with optionality, that's a really good thing to be able to do. And basically, what happened was, I moved my Solana. You guys know I had a Solana position. I moved my Solana position into D-Gods, predominantly D-Gods and some Utes as well, because I wanted that optionality of, all right, if things get really bad for Solana, which they are right now, it's single digits, it's under $10. It dipped down to like $8 yesterday. Bottom may not be in for Solana, and we'll talk about Solana in the future of Solana in just a second, but at least D-Gods and Utes had the optionality of, hey, yes, they're a community in and of themselves, and they're a project in and of themselves that just happen to be using the Solana blockchain as its home right now. That they can change, they can migrate. And there's, I think you asked a question about what's that bridge look like. So you can bridge assets there's bridging and there's migrating. So bridging would be that you deposit them in a smart contract, basically they're not called smart contracts technically when it comes to the developing lingo on Solana. They're called programs, but basically you deposit them in a smart contract on Solana, and that allows you to issue a wrapped asset, a wrapped NFT over on Ethereum. But that original asset, that original D-God NFT still lives on Phantom and can be redeemed. That wrapped asset can be redeemed. The problem with that is if that smart contract on Solana ever gets exploited, it's going to affect the value negatively of the wrapped asset over on Ethereum. We actually saw this happen with V1 CryptoPunks. V1 CryptoPunks have a wrapper smart contract because the actual original smart contract had a bug in it where it allowed you to just buy the V1 CryptoPunk without actually having to pay for it. The other way to do it is to just completely migrate. And to migrate, you would actually be burning the NFT on the Solana blockchain. right? And that would issue you a token, or you use some sort of identification. You tie your Ethereum address to the token that you're burning, and that would give you the ability to mint the same exact DGOD, the same exact NFT, the same picture, whatever, the same similar metadata over on the Ethereum blockchain, and you're starting fresh and anew on the Ethereum blockchain. Each have their pros and cons and consequences, but I think with the DGODs, we're going to be looking at a migration, not a bridge, which I think is the right choice.
Migration is okay. So what does floor price look like? Is it just does it start somewhere? I have no idea.
Yeah, I'll look it up right now. It's been hovering around around $4,000 to $6,000 per DGOD at current, depending on Solana's price. So what we've actually seen is, and I can actually, I'll very briefly share my screen because I know we might jump into charts later, but I've got the floor price up here for DGODs. And what you'll see is that this is priced in Solana. Right. So remember on November 9th, right? November 9th was this FTX collapse. So DGODs have actually been a life raft, right? So while Solana has been going down in price, DGODs have been maintaining their price against Solana, or against dollars rather, right? So the price of DGODs has gone from 182 Solana all the way up to right now 568 Solana, and that's because people are trying to get on the life raft off of Solana and protect their investment, myself included. But also because the price of Solana is going down, right? These are priced in dollars, so it takes more Solana to add up to roughly $5,000 to $6,000. If we were to do the math, 568 times, I think Solana was around $9 or so. We're looking at 5,100. So they've been around that. For a little while they're around like $3,000, but they've come up in the recent weeks against Solana, and they've been hovering around $4,000 to $6,000. So against dollars, you're actually performing better right now in DGODs than you are in Solana. Now, the drawback here, and one of the risks, there's actually two risks that I'll mention, is that one is there could be a bug with this bridge or migration. I'm not terribly worried about it. They're a pretty competent team. But the other part of this is like, hey, at the end of the day, you're speculating on $5,000 JPEGs going into what everyone believes is going to be a recession. So are there potentially better, safer places to have your money? Certainly. But again, in that research paper, we break it down. We talk about the catalyst of them actually moving over, what that means, what kind of liquidity is over on Ethereum, what kind of buying power is over on Ethereum, the community over there. So I personally, full disclosure, I'm in DGODs right now. I'm treating it as a life raft off of Solana, and so far it's done extremely well. It's actually made money versus losing money on that Solana investment since the FTX collapse. But obviously there's risk involved.
There's always risk involved. That's interesting. You mentioned charts for us. If you want to hop into some charts, I'm not sure what you got planned. And then after that, we have our little year in review we'd love to go over with you. Maybe after that, we'll take a look at some biggest news of the year and then how price reacted. But let's just get into some charts first. Maybe Bitcoin, ETH, whatever you want to show.
Yeah, absolutely. We can cover Bitcoin, ETH, and then also, of course, the elephant in the room is Solana. We got to kind of cover Solana just a tad. I mean, with just this huge crash going on, and I don't know if you guys covered Vitalik Buterin's tweet. If not, I can pull it up really quick.
I read it, but we didn't cover it on the show. He pretty much kind of gave his, I don't want to say stamp of approval, but his kind of like,
and it looks like he's tweeted. Here it is. Some smart people tell me that there is an earnest, smart developer community in Solana, and now that the awful opportunistic money people have been washed out, the chain has a bright future. Hard for me to tell from the outside, but I hope the community gets its fair chance to thrive. And I'm in agreement here. I do think that Solana is, I'm not recommending, nothing's financial advice here, but I would definitely not be recommending anybody, aping into Solana anytime soon. I don't think there's any rush. I do think that Solana will very, very likely pump if they fork Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX's allocation out of the future of Solana. So if they run a fork of Solana and it cuts out their allocation, the FTX allocation, which is going to be a ton of sell pressure on the future of Solana, I think Solana will pump, similar to how we've seen like Terra Luna Classic make these changes and shifts and try to recover, and then you see these massive pumps. Now it may be short-lived, but I still think that there will at some point be some sort of news catalyst event for Solana trying to adjust to account for getting FTX's a negative selling effect on the market out of their future. From a longer term accumulation standpoint, again, this is where we're dealing with probably where does Solana become attractive to me? It becomes attractive to me in this $2 to $4 region. I would actually be very, very happy to accumulate here. Now, a couple of things like Ethereum last market cycle dropped 95% in the sentiment around Ethereum. People called it a scam. People called it a Ponzi. People said it was dead. It was never coming back, right? Solana's dipped 97%. Last market cycle, Cardano dipped 99%. People called it vaporware, said it wasn't going. People still call Cardano vaporware, right? They said it was never coming back. It dipped 99%. Sentiment was absolutely awful. But what you also have to understand is that Solana, the state of Solana right now, the amount of adoption, and again, their token, the distribution of the tokens towards VCs and to FTX right now is not ideal. But the sheer adoption that they have in the space and what they've built in the space and the number of communities that are building actively on Solana and the number of users that they have are actually light years ahead of where Ethereum was when Ethereum was at like $90 at the bottom of last market cycle. So a lot of people are, celebrating the death of Solana. They said they think it's never coming back. I would probably tend to disagree. Do I think it's going to rocket back to 260 next market cycle? Probably not. Do I think it's going to be the greatest thing ever? Probably not. But there's a lot of really good tech happening on Solana, and they do have a pretty big advantage when it comes to composability, which we won't get into. But if we do see that 99% capitulation all the way down to this $2 to $4 region, I'll be stacking up. Just because I do believe that there's a redemption arc, just because we've seen redemption arcs in the crypto space before with Ethereum, with Cardano. Cardano went on to 180x and make new all-time highs. So in the short term here, I wouldn't be itching to get into Solana. I think at these prices, you're much... the fundamentals have shifted kind of poorly, projects leaving Solana and such. You could make the case for a buy here, but I'm not itching to get into Solana. I think there's plenty of time. We may be getting a bear market rally here in 2023, but after that bear market rally, you probably get another bit of a leg down. And once we get closer to the next Bitcoin halving, like I said, 6 to 9 months out is where I'm looking to accumulate some Cardano. We'll probably be looking to accumulate some Solana in that same time frame. So we're looking at like June, July, August of 2023. So maybe closer to this region, right? And I don't know exactly where the price will be there, but I do know if you play the cycles, it's paid off so far, and Solana's a good opportunity to do many multiples. Now, I know some people will disagree and they say it's dead, it's not going anywhere, but there's a lot of developers still sticking around and a lot of projects still sticking around. So that's kind of more of a fundamental view of Solana there, rather than getting too into the technicals. And look, Bitcoin and Ethereum have not been exciting recently. So not a whole lot has changed. We're sitting slightly under our 21-week simple moving average for Bitcoin. I do think that we could have maybe a little bit of a spike in January. We'll see. I think people may be taking some positions in January. We're kind of seeing a lot of window dressing right now. Some hedge funds maybe facing some redemptions, maybe a little bit of forced selling going on. But overall, like the price action has been not volatile whatsoever. We're just kind of frozen heading into the new year. Maybe we get a breakout in one direction or the other, but I am not sitting here trying to guess which direction that's going to be in. I think there's a case for a little bit of upside, maybe a mean reversion, test back up at 18, 19K for Bitcoin. I think there's a strong case to be made for further downside. Overall, in the legacy market, I think there's a strong case to be made for upside if we take a brief very brief peek at the Dow Jones Industrial Average. We are finding support on the back of that trend line. We have our 21-week simple moving average actually starting to trend upwards, right, which is a really good sign. There is a case for a little bit of a bounce here in the first quarter of 2023. Again, still expecting kind of probably further downside and more pain or potential recession in later mid to late 2023. Right. So again, I'm not saying we're just going to start ripping here, and I'm not even trying to guess. What I do know is that we've seen a very low amount of volatility. I know we've got kind of been, I can throw on these short margin pressure levels really quick just to kind of show you the levels that we've been bouncing around and playing around, but really not even getting super clean bounces around any of these levels just because we're just like, yeah, we kind of came up and tested 16.8K, getting a little bit of a rejection, but the market's just not moving right now. And I think we're due for a large move here very soon, probably in January. Whether that's the upside or downside is uncertain. Now, same thing with Ethereum, except for Ethereum's kind of doing a little bit different than Bitcoin in the sense that it's kind of hovering slightly above its key support level here. So it's been testing this 1190, 1192 region and holding it, whereas Bitcoin's kind of been hiding up underneath its resistance level. Does that mean anything? Probably not. Whatever direction this market moves in January, everything will probably move to the same, in the same direction. The last thing I'll bring up is this is a really interesting chart. I think a lot of people should be paying attention to is the Ethereum Bitcoin chart. This has been coming to a terminus, a head, whatever you want to call it, for quite some time here. And I do think, I'm not going to predict prices in particular, but what I am predicting is a volatile move in the next month or two. I think we're coming to the point where we've got pressures from the downside converging with pressures from pressures from underneath converging with pressures from above. And this is the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio. You guys know me personally. I'm in favor of Ethereum outperforming Bitcoin in 2023. Maybe a little bit biased there, probably, but also I think there's some stuff with the structural flows, Ethereum not having mining sell pressure, Bitcoin having that mining sell pressure. I think there's kind of this nice little opportunity for Ethereum to shine here against Bitcoin in particular, and we're kind of seeing that pattern come from a technical perspective here. So either way, probably really want to be paying attention to which way this breaks out, because regardless of which way this breaks out, there'll probably be a pretty big move in either direction. And you can always take a hedged position. You can take a long in Ethereum and then short Bitcoin and isolate for just this chart moving up. And that way, if you get a huge crash, your trade is not actually down that much, right? Regardless of which the overall direction of the market is, right? Let's just say, Bitcoin falls more than Ethereum falls. In this case, the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio would be going up in that market crash. Or vice versa. You could always take the opposite bet. If you think Ethereum is going to underperform Bitcoin, you could short Ethereum and then long Bitcoin, and then you're kind of hedged against a huge market volatility swing where we get a large crash. Hopefully that makes sense to people. Happy to break it down further if not. But otherwise, maybe we jump into the year in review.
Yeah. Real quick, for the chat as well, is there any what for the chat here for everybody watching? What was your biggest impact or your biggest takeaway from 2022? We want to know, and we'll pick a couple highlights from the chat, kind of discuss those as well. But without further ado, we're going to kind of give you the rundown. We'll start with January. We'll start with how the year rolled out. And I know David's got kind of some of the stuff lined up. So take it away. How did we start the year off in 2022, David?
I literally have no idea.
No idea?
No.
Oh.
I know how we did February. I didn't see anything huge in January, unless I'm probably missing something. But I'm actually starting in February. And guys, I'm just going to kind of keep this thing flowing. I'll stop here and there, but if something pops out or you got something to say, Forrest or Robin, just chime in, okay? So we're going to start here. So it's in February with the trucker protests in Canada. And so what happened is people's bank accounts were being frozen. I believe this was over COVID or something, but people started
The vaccines and the truckers.
yeah, the vaccines. So people started doing a GoFundMe, but the government seized it. So then people started donating Bitcoin. And this happened, this article came out February 16th of this past year. So this was pretty big. Obviously, if you know anything about economy, truckers, they are literally the lifeline of an entire economy. If there's no truckers, there's nothing.
This was one of the big pivotal moments. I think this is when, at least for myself, we always have this kind of conspiracy theories, or at least kind of thought experiments where we're like, hey, if the government wanted to, they could seize your assets. They can kind of tell you what to do. If you don't fall in line or in step with their ideology or what their current narrative is. And, where you had was, thousands, or I don't know if they got up to millions of people kind of pushing back on the government's demands. And in doing so, we saw a democracy, Canada, which at the time, I was under the assumption then, they didn't have that kind of regime where they were controlling and had power. And I think this was kind of that first realization that, hey, what you think is like a liberal democratic country where you have freedoms, perhaps you don't have as much freedom as you do, especially financially. So kind of in our own personal space, we saw the freezing of bank accounts and then the first attempts from a major government to seize or censor people's finances through Bitcoin. And then that's where we saw different exchanges picking sides, like, hey, which are you gonna seize assets? Are you gonna halt trading? And I think it was the start to the fears of where the government is gonna come in and take what you own. And if you have Bitcoin, if you use a decentralized platform like Ethereum, there is some safeguards against
I think the biggest
government. So.
I think the biggest thing when it relates to crypto is that people turn to Bitcoin. When their accounts are being frozen, people turn to Bitcoin. And so that's what Bitcoin can do. You got anything to add to this one for us before we move down the timeline here?
No, I mean, everything, just reiterate everything you guys are saying. Here, I don't know if I'm supposed to be sharing my screen or not.
I
mean, if you want to kind of discuss, because I think in February, that was, we weren't too far off of all-time highs at the time. I think we hit the top, in January? Was it?
No, it was November of last year.
Was it
November of 2021?
Okay. So I think, obviously we've, since the beginning of 2022, it's been nothing but a slow, gradual decline. But I don't know.
What was Bitcoin doing back then? Let's take a trip down memory lane.
Okay, yeah. I'll share my screen.
Or if you want to start at the beginning of the year as well, maybe start in January to say how we came into 2022 in crypto, or at least in Bitcoin.
So if you recall, Bitcoin actually had already peaked in at this point. So this is going to be Jan 1, and if you recall, the S&P 500 actually peaked around basically the first week of January. So Bitcoin actually peaked first, was already on the decline, right? And then got its kind of first, decent sized bounce. And here's the thing about this market, this bear market, is Bitcoin has just not gotten the big, even like the nice big dead cat bounce that you would hope for, the big rally that you'd hope for. They've been relatively small, unfortunately. This one was about 47% to the peak, but this other line that I draw here was that February, was it February 14th was the day, or February 16th? So we actually maybe saw some buying pressure from the truckers, into that event. Right. And then it kind of spilled back over before climbing back up for another.
I do remember that the An interesting narrative with the road truckers was that, hey, you know, screw you, government. We can circumvent your policies when it comes to
Did you say
finances.
ice road truckers.
And that was a good show.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know, we can evade your policies and bank accounts by going.
I'm saying? I think
going crypto.
the biggest thing for me was that when that was happening, people turned to crypto. So that was interesting. All right, staying in February, we had some other big news. Famed rapper and power couple. The Bitfinex hackers, Ilya Lichtenstein and Heather Morgan. This is, I believe, where they were arrested. And just to remind you guys who this Heather Morgan is, I don't know why she went down the road of laundering money and stealing or whatever she was doing, and why she didn't stick with her rap career, because this is straight fire.
Turkish Martha Stewart, keep gun up in her skirt. Been trapping with dessert, gone poppy from the dirt. Rebellious young Turk, con basics with a Burke. Showing off her inverse twerk, at dark she come alert. Like beer, Iggy Ooch Dirt, beer, Iggy Ooch Dirt. Turkish Martha Stewart, Turkish Martha Stewart,
And she's spitting straight hot fire.
Those dance moves, though, bro.
Dude, you know what's better than the
she
dance
got them
moves?
hip thrusters, bro.
No,
she kind of like
what's better
she
than
like Shakira without the shake.
No. What's better than dance moves is the sound effects.
Oh.
Or do you agree that she should have stuck with her rap career? I feel like Bitfinex hacking wasn't really kind of fitting her narrative. What are your thoughts?
I think that we should have all just sold all of our crypto as soon as we saw this video. This was a signal. We deserved a bear market.
Oh, that is so freaking true.
Like this is the culprit behind the largest hack in history and the biggest seizure by the U.S. government in history. You can go to the seizing of drug money from the cartels, to any large criminal empire. Never had the government seized as much money as they did here.
Yeah.
I think it was like
$3.6
billion. Jeez.
And which made the government one of the largest holders of Bitcoin. So that was pretty interesting. But so that kind of wrapped up February. Now we're heading into March. And this was big news when it first came out. It was Joe Biden's executive order on ensuring responsible development of digital assets. And so on this one for us, as I'm going through, definitely want to take a look at how Bitcoin reacted to this piece of news. Just a couple things I had highlighted. The rise in digital assets creates an opportunity to reinforce American leadership in the global financial system and at the technological frontier. This is from the White House, Joe Biden. The order lays out a national policy for digital assets across 6 key priorities: consumer and investor protection, financial stability, illicit finance, U.S. leadership, financial inclusion, and responsible innovation. He asked a majority of these sectors of, whether it's the SEC, the urban housing, or the EPA, to look at what does Bitcoin mining do for the environment? How does this impact this? Stablecoin, blah, blah, blah. And so this was pretty big when it first came out. It was seen as U.S. is pro-crypto. And
the president is pro-crypto.
Yeah. He's also pro anything.
Naps.
Well, yeah. So this was on March 9th of this year, Forrest. How did Bitcoin react, or how did crypto react?
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at the charts here, we had actually a big spike, a big pump, and then just it ran it right back, right? And then this may have been the news that took us up into what was, from a trading perspective, one of the trickiest patterns that I've ever seen. This was horrible. This deviation above this ascending triangle was absolutely disgusting, because this was a bullish bottoming pattern. And then when we broke through this resistance, I know it tricked a lot of people into going long. This is traditionally going to be a bounce off of this level. That's traditionally going to be a long signal, and we're going higher. But interestingly, off of this news, we did get a big pump. ran it right back, ended up finding support on our uptrend, and then pushing up into this pattern here in early April. Literally, this is actually funny because this is this long trigger, right? This traditionally, if you were trading this wick here would be the trigger to get long. That was on April Fool's Day, so Bitcoin was literally saying April Fools and then just went right back down. So yeah, interesting price action there.
That's cold-blooded. You want to stay on the charts for us and go to March 16th.
What happened on March 16th?
March 16th. And as he's doing that, I will swap over to my laptop. The Fed approved its first interest rate hike in more than 3 years, according to CNBC, and they saw 6 more ahead. And so, of course, this is when monetary tightening started. This was the 25 basis point rate hike. I believe the first 75 point was in May. But March 16th, first rate hike. How did Bitcoin react? How did the S&P 500 react?
Let's take a peek at the S&P 500 on March 16th. So Bitcoin really didn't react. I mean, it was actually kind of in the midst of starting this nice bounce, this nice uptrend, coming back up to test this resistance from where Biden had that order, and we got a little bit of a pump. But we'll go to March 16th. No, I mean, the market was March 16th, 2022, the S&P 500 pumped as well, which is interesting. I mean, maybe the market was saying, hey, finally, the Fed's doing the right thing in reacting to this high inflation, which is interesting.
That is kind of interesting. The first 75 point rate hike, while we're on rate hikes before we move on, I believe Robin's checking it, but I believe it was May of this year. Robin, can you confirm?
It was July. Yeah, hold on. I'm pulling up the...
So as he's pulling it up, so we know the first 75, that's when everyone, I believe, and we'll see what the charts say, when everyone started panicking. First 75 basis point rate hike, the largest in quite some time. Took the markets, I believe, if I remember correctly, kind of spooked the markets a little bit. But it was in July. Until Robin finds the exact date. Maybe take a look at July as a whole, maybe towards the middle to end of July, what that kind of looked like for the S&P and for Bitcoin.
Yeah, so really the big leg down came, where's July?
It was June 16th. So June 16th was the first one.
It's my birthday.
June 16th is your birthday?
Actually,
very belated birthday.
So that was actually
you brought us the amazing gift.
Yeah. Thanks, Jerome Powell. No, so that 25 basis point rate hike actually was, pushed us up into, and the pattern here seems to be that the market kind of, gets some fear going into these rate hike decisions. There's a lot of fear in these rate hike decisions, but then when they actually come out and you kind of rip the Band-Aid off, it allows the market to move back upwards again. So June 16th here would have been the bottom for the S&P 500, or the first local bottom that we really got in this bearish trend.
Interesting. And then we all know what happened as the year kind of went on. What are your? We kind of all agree that they started hiking rates a little too late, right?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure Robin feels the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But, all right. So we're going to backtrack from June. We're going to go back to April 26th. And so this was the biggest news that happened in April. It was Fidelity offering 401k investors access to Bitcoin, the first retirement plan provider to do so. Now, they did face a lot of backlash from the likes of Elizabeth Warren from the Senate saying, hey, Bitcoin's too risky. It's down too much. I think at this time, I believe April 26th, Bitcoin was down close to 40, 50%. They're saying, oh, it's too volatile. And now we see that Bitcoin, in fact, is down less than a lot of stocks that are in the S&P 500. So this was pretty big
what
news. I
was-
know we were pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, you had
What was the
one of
specific date?
the biggest names.
April
in-
26th.
Yeah, biggest names in finance. I mean, I think anyone that's in finance respects Fidelity, whether or not you use it. But I think everyone in the financial sector understands that, hey, they're here to stay. Like they make the trend, right? People respect what they say, and this respected powerhouse is offering Bitcoin in their 401ks in the long term, right? It's not saying, hey, we're gonna buy and sell Bitcoin, whatever. Like they're offering the HODL mentality, the ultimate HODL mentality, right? Your 401k, which is really only designed for retirement. I know you can cash out early, but realistically, they're getting behind the HODL long term and the long term vision of Bitcoin. So this was a very pivotal moment for the year.
So I'm curious what the charts did. So we know at this point everyone was kind of I don't know if everyone was sold on we're in a bear market, but people were like, all right, well, we're definitely not in a bull market anymore. What did Bitcoin do around this time for us, April 26th?
Yeah, so we basically got one little green day amongst a bloodbath, and I've also thrown on the S&P 500 here in orange just to show the correlation here. And essentially, here we were just in full force downswing. Everything was going downwards, and normally, if we were in a bull market, I think this would have been some bullish news that people would have speculated on, but we ended up getting a pretty nasty crash shortly after. So it doesn't seem like this news was enough to really move the markets up.
You know what caused an even nastier crash? Is May 10th, 11th, and 12th, the beginning of the fall of Terra Luna, UST, as the stablecoin depegged after a massive $285 million dump of the stablecoin on Curve Finance and Binance. So we know that liquidity was being moved from one pool to another. And someone knew that liquidity was being moved, and they attacked one of the liquidity pools that didn't have enough liquidity. And so it sent everything into a spiral. People started panicking. People started withdrawing. UST got under, which meant UST was being burnt and Luna was being minted, which caused Luna's price to completely crash. And so it was a parallel crashing of two of the largest DeFi projects in the space. I believe at the time, UST, the stablecoin, was around $20 billion, and Terra Luna was right around $30 billion?
Almost 40. I think it was like 38. Basically, the two together was $60 billion.
Yeah.
So
this is kind of what really pushed everything down. And I'm sure the charts kind of say the same thing, right, Forrest?
Yeah, but also very interestingly, we were still very much in a downward spiral in the S&P 500, and you would think that this would, cause Bitcoin to spiral downwards far worse than the S&P 500. But at the same time, there was still a lot of correlation here. So yeah, we did get these really massive wicks down, and we did see Bitcoin drop down to 25K. But it did pop kind of back up into this consolidation range along with the S&P 500. So the general trend here was still very much in line with S&P 500, and probably even more correlated, I would imagine, with tech stocks. Despite that, we just got some with the Terra Luna collapse. We really just had some a really bad acceleration downwards. But overall, the trend was still in line with S&P 500.
That was a terrible day. We did a lot of emergency streams that weekend. All right, let's keep this thing moving. So right after Terra Luna collapsed, we had June 12th. Celsius halted withdrawals officially. Celsius plunges as network halts withdrawals. This was on a Monday, which we had Forrest on the show on Friday. And he talked about the Cell token and being worried that it might crash. Not only did the Cell token crash, but the entire damn network crashed. What had a bigger impact on as far as price? Was it Luna going under on May 10th, or was it Celsius halting withdrawals on June 12th?
So it looks like Celsius actually had a bit of a worse effect, but again, we see like no relief from the S&P 500. Like if we look at this orange line here, that's the S&P 500. The S&P 500 by this date was actually already in free fall, and crypto, like Bitcoin, was already like kind of holding up a little bit better than the S&P 500. And then this was kind of the pressure release valve where everyone just started selling and getting liquidated, and the FUD was pretty bad, and then obviously a lot of concerns about the liquidations of Celsius.
I still have the
security
Fed.
client funds.
I still got the Fed interest rate hike here. Website just pulled up. May 5th was the first 50 basis rate hike, so maybe the markets are reacting to the increase, the rate of increase of the federal rate interest. Right, May 5th, is that? Or
Yeah.
is that? Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's certainly kind of adding fuel to the fire here of this downtrend in the S&P 500, and this downtrend was just relentless for both markets. But obviously when you add in the Celsius and you add in the Terra Luna collapse, it just accelerates everything.
So do you remember? I know you remember talking about Cell Token that Friday, and then everything crashed, right? But I don't know, this is kind of a shot in the dark here, but do you remember why you felt that way, or did you see something? Like, just looking back, what were the warning signs or red flags that brought you to say, "Hey, I think Cell Token's in trouble"?
Oh goodness, I don't know anything in particular specifically. It was probably just a lot of kind of developments on Twitter, and just also the fact that just the way these lending products are structured, and how essentially a lot of them, and it was my belief that for a while that a lot of these were using Terra Luna as their yield source. So in Terra Luna, it was like basically. What you had was like Celsius and Voyager, like they're offering 14% APY on USDT, and they would take customer funds, they'd take dollars, they'd give them 14%, they'd pay part of it in their Cell token, but then they would just go and stick that they'd go stick that in Terra Luna and get 20% for themselves, and then just keep the difference. So they're just arbitraging the two rates. So really what this is where we kind of all paths kind of lead back to this Terra Luna collapse, and the contagion a lot of it can be pointed and directed back to the fact that all the DeFi yield was basically just a Ponzi swirling around underneath that 20% stablecoin yield that Terra Luna was giving, which was obviously very, very unsustainable and crashed as a result. But I mean the reason that Celsius and Voyager were not looking too good, and even BlockFi now with FTX, is that they just had dependence. They had counterparty risk with Terra Luna.
I don't have anything else to add to that. A lot has happened, including moving through the timeline. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to Scott Barry. He said, "You guys are awesome. You're my hometown channel. Glad to have found you. You're my new favorite show."
Well,
we appreciate it.
Yeah, also just a little bit, just a little love intermission.
Love
here.
intermission.
So a couple of new people here. We got Pave Cleaner, Rin Tin Tin, Sly Monkey, Steph Left, P Morton, Crunk C, Quo S, Rick Rita, Bruce Bradley, and Scott Barry, as you mentioned, hometown Vegas. To all of you, hola, welcome to Sin City Crypto.
I don't know why it looks like this, but this is from CNBC. On July 6th, crypto brokerage Voyager Digital files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. This was obviously really big news. There was some people who had a lot of money on Voyager as they were using it as a high-end trading platform, a lot of leverage and stuff. I'm kidding, of course. But but this was pretty big news too. But I feel like at this point, we had Three Arrows, which wasn't that big of a deal. Then we had Luna, and then we had Celsius. And so at this point, we were kind of like, oh, another one bites the dust. What was your reaction to this, Robin, to Voyager going under? Were you like just numb to companies going under at this
Bro.
point or crypto, or was this still like a shock?
No, I mean, here's the thing. I think this is when we realize, or at least for myself, this is when I realized that this contagion's not over. You know, when you saw the Terra Luna go under, Celsius happen. I don't think I was quite as shocked with Celsius. And then when Voyager went under, I remember people that were in my circle using Voyager, and I felt like the real degens, the people that were like deep into crypto, were using Celsius, right? But your neighbor, the guy at the barber shop, the person that just has limited exposure to crypto was using Coinbase, they were using Voyager, and they were using FTX, right? Or maybe Binance.us. And those are your options. And when one of those went down, I was like, oh, crap. And they were the smallest of them. And at this point, you know, the warning signs are on the wall that maybe a big exchange was going to go under. I know we discussed it before, but like, hey, this is a smaller exchange. What would happen if one of the bigger ones went under?
Well, now we know.
Yeah, exactly. And so for me, this is when it kind of sank in that, hey, this is unraveling at breakneck speed, you know, at least in the terms of finance. You know, these big companies don't, you know, they typically, you know, they financial companies are supposed to stay in business for, you know, 20, 50, 100, 200 years, right?
Mm.
They're not supposed to go under, and then not all in succession, one after another. And so I think this is when I realized, I'm like, hey, there's a little too much leverage and risk in the system. And this is probably not the last. That's kind of what I took away from it.
What about you, Forrest? What were your initial thoughts when this went under? Were you like, you're kind of, after what happened with Luna and Celsius, you're kind of like not surprised, or was it still something you felt like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it was kind of like another one bites the dust. It's, contagion continuing to spread. And then the question became like, all right, you know, we've had Terra Luna collapse. That's kind of been the catalyst for this. Celsius going under, Voyager going under. Who else is hiding? Like Robin said, you know, that's the possibility. Are there bigger players at stake here that are just have been able to cover this up for a longer period of time? And how long can they cover it up? And will crypto go up before, you know, they get exposed and crash? But as far as price action goes here, again, we see more correlation with S&P 500. We did get a little bit, you know, following that July 8th and July 9th, right? So I believe that broke on July 9th, right? That was kind of our local peak. But again, it was kind of our local peak in the S&P 500, right? And we came down and then just continued our uptrend upwards to go back up to retest 25K before falling down.
By the way, guys, put a 1 if you're enjoying the content so far. Also, put a 2 1s if you enjoy Forrest. Put 3 1s if you just enjoy everyone except Robin. So moving right along, we're getting into August. So these are just some quick honorable mentions. August 2nd is when Michael Saylor stepped down as CEO of MicroStrategy. No, we're not showing that yet. Stepped down as CEO of MicroStrategy. August 25th is when the Ethereum Foundation officially gave a hard date for the Ethereum merge, which turned into the actual merge happening on September 14th, Merge Day. I heard the merge parties were sick, bro, on YouTube. What are your thoughts on that, Forrest? Did you join any of these merge parties on YouTube? And of course, I'm kidding because they were super lame.
No, I stayed up that evening and I joined the official one with the Ethereum Foundation. And yeah, I mean, again, as far as from a price perspective, like we see more correlation with the S&P 500, but then we actually this is where we actually start to break some correlation. And it looks sort of like the S&P 500 was still crashing. And it kind of got to a point where it's like, Bitcoin was just running into this super hard support at 18K and nobody wanted to sell underneath 18K. And we were starting to put in that nice curved bottom and start moving back upwards before we got FTX, which I'm sure is probably the next thing on the list. But yeah, the merge was, it was a buy the rumor, sell the news event. And
what is this? Hold on a second. Hold on. Forrest. We have the merge party here. It is Vitalik rap battling here. Some amazing dance moves.
What is that lady doing? What is that one lady in the back doing?
This is the merge party here. This is the future of our financial institutions lay in the hands of this man and all of his. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, Forrest, I've gotten used to his interruptions like this. I hope you don't take offense to it. It's just how he is, my friend. It's how he is.
No worries at all. No, I think the lesson learned here is that the real signal is like as soon as you start seeing like a viral dance video about crypto, is like that's when you sell. Just sell everything in that day and then look to buy lower.
Oh man, I'm curious. Real quick, how did Ethereum's price react to the merge?
Yeah, certainly. So this was, obviously a lot of people got very excited, and this is one thing that that I will be happily will admit that I got backwards. I thought a lot of people would be looking to get in after the Ethereum merge, so September 14th, I believe. I got it backwards. I would have thought a lot of people would not want the Ethereum exposure going into the merge, and they would be looking to wait for it to be a clean merge and then look to buy and re-pick up their positions after a clean, successful merge. But it ended up being the opposite. It ended up being a buy the rumor, sell the news event. So that was definitely one that I got wrong this year. Maybe again, being a little bit biased on Ethereum, but overall, we've seen ETH hold up pretty decently, all things considered, still not making that lower low and still holding up. So
why do you think that was
a big crash?
Why do you think that was? You think it was just the bear market and the macro was just too much, even for something as big as the merge?
Well, I mean, once again here, we got to reference the S&P 500 and the overall markets where when we're in a bear market, it just feels like the entire crypto sector, especially the large caps, Bitcoin and Ethereum, have been defaulting to kind of trading like high growth tech stocks, which is super interesting. So I also think that we got this overextension to the down, like we got this whipsaw price action. Like this was obviously like way too low, and that was due to the stake that was basically like Celsius, Voyager, and what was basically like Alameda had there were kind of like these wars going around and like this liquidity crisis around staked Ethereum. And if you remember around here, that's when staked Ethereum was like trading at 85% of the price of Ethereum.
What a good bet.
So this
that
was
been, huh?
definitely an overcorrection to the downside, like a deviation to the downside that was caused by like extraneous circumstances. And then I think it just whipsawed back up way too fast, way too high. And we got overextension to the upside and the hype around the merge, and that just kind of resulted in this overall trend continuing here. I mean essentially if we isolate for just this line, I'll try to make it come on, there it is, make it a little bit thicker there. We've pretty much just stuck to this trend line, and we just had like the deviation below it that was just way too low, the hype into the merge, and then we've just kind of reverted back onto this line, especially after the FTX collapse here. It looked like we were finally departing it and going to look to move up higher. But yeah.
And I'm assuming a lot of people had misconceptions about what the merge would actually do. But if you had bought staked ETH at a 15% discount, you would have made some decent money. And so I know a lot of people did that. I'm not sure if you did or not, Forrest, but that was a good play, I think, in my opinion. But all right, let's move on. September 22nd, Vasil went live. Cardano's Vasil hard fork did go live. This was supposed to make the network faster, supposed to make it handle up to potentially, at the amount of stake pool operators they have, up to 3 million transactions per second. So I don't think, so we saw what happened when smart contracts were introduced to Cardano last year in September. There was a run up on that, and then the day and 2-3 days after, the price came down. Real quick, What did Cardano do? The date is September 22nd, maybe a week before, during, and a week after. What was the price action like on Cardano? If I remember correctly, I think it went down.
Yeah, so it looks like there was a little bit of a spike into it, but again, like I think a lot of people were looking for opportunities to short or to de-risk. So any hype buying into these kind of shorter term demand narratives, I don't think like these narratives, the merge or the Vasil hard fork for Cardano are enough in a bear market when everything's trending down to bring in enough demand to really push price up significantly here. So it just kind of those buyers were just kind of slammed back down with shorters, and then in general, I mean, we covered Cardano, I think, last week a little bit. Cardano performs extraordinarily well in bull markets, but it performs extraordinarily poorly in bear markets. And this has been no exception. And I think we're just not quite to the point yet where I'm looking to add some Cardano, but I definitely like Cardano is absolutely a coin that I want in my portfolio going into the next bull market. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys know we're big Cardano fans here. Me and my Robin as well. I believe Kyler's too. All right. All roads lead to this. This is what kicked off the collapse of Sam Bankman, freed from jail, and the fall of FTX and Alameda. This was on November 2nd from CoinDesk. The article that came out highlighting Alameda's balance sheet, which we now know was given up by an insider, Ryan Salame, or Salame, or however you want to pronounce it.
Salami.
Yeah, Salame or whatever.
Ryan Capicola.
The guy that was donating to the Republicans. Okay, he's the one who blew the horn on this. So this happened on November 2nd is when this was published. Sam then responded on November 7th saying FTX insolvency response to it says, everything is fine. We're good, man. Deposits are good. Kind of sounds like what Miskinski said. This is a tweet from him. A competitor is trying to go after us. FTX is fine. Assets are fine. November 7th. And then on November 11th, officially, just 4 days later, they filed for bankruptcy in the state of Southern District of New York. And then, of course, December 13th, Sam was shown an ad. But outside of that, he was arrested in the Bahamas, which brings us to where we are now. He is in the U.S. He is not in jail. He is freed, like his name says, living in a $4 million home in Palo Alto with his parents, going on jogs, taking medicine, and has a security detail that's costing his parents roughly $10,000 a week. And he has an arraignment on January 3rd with rumors that he will be taking a plea deal. We don't need to look at the charts to know what the hell happened. We know one of the biggest crashes we saw. I guess I want to ask you, Forrest, are you surprised Bitcoin went from only 20 to 16K with the second largest exchange going under, with all the fraud that came about, with everything going on? Did you think it was going to go way lower? What were your initial thoughts as this was kind of
You're just not surprised that Bitcoin was just so exhausted?
I was like, all right, I'll go down like another 2%.
I'm tired.
Honestly, this one is, another one where I would have thought, and it's funny, like I think there's like screenshots of like a group message or like some sort of quotes from like Sam and Caroline talking like after the fact, like where they're like themselves, they're shocked that Bitcoin had held up as well as it had, and Ethereum had held up as well as it had, despite the collapse of FTX. Where like, I would have expected this to go lower by now. Well, I actually would have expected, a continued spill off, and then maybe I could have seen a bounce back to the range where we're at right now. But I'm surprised that these levels were protected as much as they were, and it really makes me wonder. It's like, are there large entities with margin calls around these areas where they had to find some cash to come in and push the price back up? I don't know if it's Michael Saylor. I don't know if it's people involved in unknown whales that may have margin calls down in this 12 to 13, 14K region, and they didn't want that price to drop below. Again, getting a little speculatory here, but what was interesting here about this piece of news is this piece of news was in fact large enough, and it came at the worst possible time. This news was large enough to decorrelate us for a period of time with S&P 500. So this is up here is the normal high correlation that we do experience with the S&P 500 and Bitcoin. So normally at any given time, we get a lot of correlation. Sometimes you get like kind of zero correlation, but then we get negative correlation. They're moving in the opposite direction. And if you recall, like around this time, we crushed the macro landscape, right? We got it completely right. The CPI print and the rate hike came in really, really good. And we ended up getting a nice leg upwards in the S&P 500. It pumped quite a bit. And I've got it kind of compressed here, but this was, I mean, if we go to the S&P 500 chart, this off of that kind of, low was around a 17, almost close to a 20% bounce, which is a ton out of the S&P 500. So this took us into negative correlation where Bitcoin and the crypto market was crashing while the S&P 500 was moving upwards. What's interesting now is that we've kind of fallen back into this high correlation pattern where Bitcoin's kind of like, seems like the effects of this are mostly over, and we're kind of moving forward, and now we're back in line, back in lockstep with S&P 500. The question is, what's the next headline? Is it going to be Genesis DCG go under? Is it going to be Sam Bankman-Fried walks free? I don't think he's going to walk free, but what's the next headline that's going to kind of knock us off the correlation axis here?
That's an interesting chart, man. So that's kind of our year wrap up. I want to ask you, Forrest, what was and it could be something personal. It could be just general. What is one thing that stands out to you in 2022? It's maybe something you did, something you found out, a piece of news, an accomplishment. I don't know, a lesson you learned. Share with us. What was your biggest takeaway from 2022?
Yeah, there's two, and they kind of tie into each other. One we kind of touched on, like a lot of very arrogant, cocky people got humbled this year. And all those people, you look at Do Kwon, you look at Sam Bankman-Fried, you look at even Michael Saylor he's underwater. And he comes across as pretty cocky and arrogant, and I know a lot of people like him, but he's been humbled a little bit. You look at Andrew Tate; he's very, very cocky and arrogant. He's been humbled, and we won't get into his whole situation, but because we still don't have a lot of information about it. But one of the big key takeaways here is to be humble and never be too arrogant and think that you are above the ability to be zeroed out. I know a lot of people that are really, really good traders that were zeroed out this year. And that was the other thing, risk management. So the second thing is risk management. I think even people who thought they had good risk management got a rude awakening, myself included. Everybody in the crypto market, everybody in financial markets, from a broader standpoint, got a rude awakening in risk management this year. But particularly with the amount of knives, and this was one of the big differences in this bear market and last bear market. Last bear market, the writing was pretty much on the table. Everybody kind of consolidated into either Bitcoin or dollars and kind of had this understanding that these altcoins were probably going to continue to bleed out. Obviously, we weren't sure, that there was going to be a huge bear market rally, and then, no one could predict price. But it was kind of on the table. It's like, oh man, a lot of this was vaporware. A lot of this was ICOs that are crashing. And everybody kind of flooded back into Bitcoin. You saw Bitcoin dominance go up, and you could kind of preserve. You might have had an 80% drawdown. You might have had a 70% drawdown. You might have had more than that if you were hodling. But everyone could kind of hide in Bitcoin and take their licks and live to fight another day and take their learnings from it. This bear market was different because this bear market, you had like knives falling from the sky that were just zeroing people out. Like, I know people that played the market correctly. They played it correctly. They got into They got out of crypto at the right time, but they went and did the quote unquote what was seen as the responsible thing at the time, and they were yield farming with UST. And they put all of their money into UST for 20% APY, got out of the market at the top, but then they got zeroed out with UST. I know people that got zeroed out in Celsius, zeroed out in Voyager, zeroed out in BlockFi, zeroed out in FTX, knife after knife after knife that could literally take your portfolio from, regardless of how you played it, all the way back down to zero. And that's been a big lesson this year, I think, for a lot of people in risk management, not just risk management in terms of which assets you're exposed to, but risk management and how do you structure your portfolio in a way where you cannot get zeroed out. Because once you get zeroed, like you can come back from a 70% drawdown, you can come back from a 90% drawdown, right? If you're at a 90% drawdown, you're at 10% of your all-time high portfolio. There's going to be 10x opportunities in the next bull market. You can make that back. If you get zeroed out, it's just, it becomes almost impossible to make it all back without taking very large risks. So avoiding getting zeroed out with proper risk management, that's the big takeaway for me.
Now, before we started the year in review, I did ask the chat what were some of the big takeaways for the year from the community. So we had Liquidated Short says the most important thing is you can learn is risk management. I think we've all learned a little bit about risk management, as you said, especially with leverage and custodial services. Nobody is too big to fail, I think, is my biggest takeaway when it comes to that. Also, we had Magic Internet Money, also somebody that joins us on the show, well-respected TA analyst as well, and a friend of the channel. He says 2022 has reinforced that the appearances are deceiving. Look at the exchanges, Luna, SBF, etc. Trust no one, only yourself. Take control of your future. And then Kyle says, I feel like we haven't opened the club in weeks, in a while. So Bullish Kenny G, he says, takeaways from 2022. David's finger tornado sucks.
He also gave a super chat too.
Yeah, that was the super chat. Okay. He actually had to pay money to express his disgust for your finger tornado. And then also,
my biggest hater.
We had, which I'm glad somebody brought up. Crunk C, he was talking about Russia, and I think the Russia-Ukraine, conflict or war, whatever, however you want to dub it.
It's a war.
Yeah, and they don't call it a war. I mean, but
don't.
anyways,
Yeah.
that obviously was one of the big factors globally for not only finance but just this has been just the human condition,
This has been a headline tiring year, man.
Yeah. And I think that kind of sums up some of the before we got
Forrest,
into it.
Before we let you go, I want to just real quick. What is your low for Bitcoin in 2023 prediction? What is your high for Bitcoin 2023 prediction?
You cut out a little bit there. So was it what's my high for Bitcoin in 2023?
Yeah, what's the highest price Bitcoin will get in 2023, and what's the lowest it'll get in 2023?
Yeah, you're realistic, kind of just general thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're realistically 10 to 12K, probably lean towards more like 12K. And I think more likely than anything, I honestly think a lot of, like, if we do capitulate further down, we'd probably get a pretty strong bid at 14K. So realistically, the absolute lowest extreme that I see it going to would be like 6K, and that would just be absolute disaster. But my prediction would probably be 14K. For like most likely scenario on the downside. And then on the, which is higher, a lot of people have 12K, which I think is fine too. On the high side, towards the end of 2023, you got to remember here, guys, the Bitcoin halving is in March of 2024. And 6 months before that, people are going to start getting antsy. People are going to start getting hopeful. People like, if we're coming out of a recession, I don't know what the market's going to look like, by the time we get to the late 2023. But by December of 2023, if people are 3 months out of like this time next year, people are really excited about the Bitcoin halving coming up. I could see us all the way back as high as 40, 45K. And maybe, people trying to front run the halving this time around a little bit closer. But That would be, you know, as far as like middle of the year goes, probably like 28K is going to be a strong resistance point, 25 to 30K. But as far as like highs, if people get excited enough for the halving, I could see us back up at 40K, testing that 40K resistance.
Okay, interesting. Guys, if you haven't already done so, go follow Forrest on Twitter at 0xstacker. Also, he did just rebrand Crypto Stackers to Sistine Research. They are on YouTube. Go subscribe as well. And Forrest has been coming on our channel since we had less than 1,000 subscribers. We appreciate you, Forrest. It's been an amazing year with you, my friend. We cannot wait to run it back with you in 2023. Thank you so much for coming on every single week, giving us great content. We appreciate you, my friend. Have an amazing weekend. Happy New Year. And confetti, yay! We'll see you in 2023, brother.
Thanks so much, guys. It's always a pleasure. It's been a great year. Happy New Year. Enjoy.
Thanks,
Happy
brother.
New
You
Year,
too.
man.
Take care. All right, so we asked Forrest what his biggest takeaway from 2022 was. If you want to hear ours, you'll have to stay tuned because it is in the video Kyler is about to finish. That'll be posted to the members first, and then it'll go out to the public. So if you remember this channel, you will get dibs on that video. You'll also get a special segment that's not going to go out to anyone outside of the members.
You know, here in Sin City Crypto, we like to celebrate new milestones, and we might not have broken a new milestone for today's chat. But for the year, we had an all-time new subscriptions. We had all kinds of new viewers, and we can't end the year without opening up the club. So without further ado, we do a couple things here.
I'm not dancing.
We party, we celebrate, we like to celebrate milestones. Happy 2022, baby. Let's go.
Give them an idea what they're going to see in 2023, Robin. Where's the Bitcoin follower, man? Hey, in all seriousness, guys, thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. This has been a fun year for us. 2023, I don't know if it can get worse than 2022. So look out for that point. Either way, whether it's going to be good or bad, we will continue to be here Monday through Friday. We got a big year plan, and we're excited to have you guys join us. So with that being said, you gotta wait. You gotta wait, Kyler. Be patient. Stop it. Stop it. Do not ruin my
I'll get
year.
it better next year. Don't worry.
Kyler,
Tornado.
Kyler, I will literally void your check you just got in the mail. All right, no finger tornado at the end of the year because Kyler ruined it. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Kyler, big shout out to Kyler, filling in for Rocco this year. Not this year, this week, last 10 days. Amazing job. Don is coming back on Monday. Our team is growing, our content will be growing, and our community is growing. We love you guys. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe, and Happy New Year.